It takes me 3 days to transfer my money, so I can't buy this yacht. It's the same thing, right? Hey y'all, welcome back to our channel. We are the RLF Power Couple. We've got an exciting topic for y'all today. Hopefully you can pay attention and enjoy this. It's focused around finance, all right? How do you manage your finances in your marriage? And for those that are not married, this is to help you start thinking about those things. We've heard a lot of different feedback about how people should manage their finances, or should their finances be separate? You know, how do they split up their income? Is it going to be accessible to both parties? This is something that we could talk about and share our own experience, and hopefully share with you all the benefits and what path is best from our experience. Disclaimer, we are not financial managers. We're just sharing our own experience. So why do we need to talk about this? We know for a fact that finance is a big factor in marriage. It affects a lot of marriages and really could cause your marriage to go down. We don't want that. So we want to share with you all our experience and how we learned to improve this area in our life.
So yeah, when we first got married, right, we just opened up a joint account and just started putting our direct deposit into that account. We did that because, I saw my parents, have joint accounts, and you did as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so the importance of having a joint account, from what I understood before getting married, was just the fact of transparency. You hear stories about people not knowing how much your spouse makes, or vice versa, and so when things start to go in a bad direction, nobody even knows, and there's no way to save it. So from right off the bat, we wanted to make sure that we were transparent and we knew exactly what each person was making and bringing in. That's why we had the idea of just everything going into one pot.
Yep. You can't be hiding some money in another account and
offshore account.
Offshore account.
However, we don't do that anymore, and there's reasons why. So that just everything going into one pot, nothing being siphoned anywhere else. It does have some consequences.
The challenges that you face having one account where all the income is coming into and everything's being managed with one account is that you're going to lack the benefits of having multiple different accounts that provide different savings or different benefits, such as money market accounts or, high interest savings accounts, right? Another challenge that we've experienced is you have all your expenses and your income happening all at the same time in the same account, where you can't actually pull out your savings or investment amounts separate, right? Or if you have debt, you want to be able to have that coming out of separate accounts, so you don't have to interfere with the amounts that's allotted for that or allocated for that, right? And so even doing your budgeting, you want to be able to say, okay, this is the account and this is how much is in there and this is how much we're prepared to pay for this project. And so that's one of the challenges there. Another one that could be very challenging is when both parties are having their own expenses and is very different from each other. Those unique expenses could become a problem, right? And maybe one person is spending more than the other person and there's no actual budgeted amount for each person to use. That could be challenging, and that's something you gotta think about. So that took us to thinking about what else.
Right.
What can we do to improve?
So we decided to go with a different model based on a book that we read, that we shared in our video on how we paid off our $165K in debt. We'll link that video so you can watch it if you haven't yet. All right, y'all. So we decided that we needed to do a different model because we just needed something different. We weren't making any strides in our savings. We weren't really making any dents with our debt. So that's why we decided to read the Barefoot Investor book. And in that book, we learned about buckets on how to manage your money. It also talks about all the different kind of accounts you should have in order to make sure that your money is well diversified. And the big thing that we learned from that is really how to split up our money. So the first thing that your money comes into is a bucket called the blow bucket.
It's not to blow your money away, for those who don't understand.
Right, so basically the blow bucket is where you split everything out of, and you set up automatic transactions so that it's automatic for you. You don't have to think about it. All your money goes into your joint account. So like we already had, so that was the first step. We already had it. That was our blow bucket. But what we had to do, we had to create 4 new accounts. We needed a daily expenses account.
Right.
We needed a smile account. We needed a splurge account. And we needed a fire extinguisher account. So the daily expenses account, a certain percent of our income went into that account to cover all our expenses.
Right.
So the next account we had a percent of money to go into is our splurge account.
Right.
And the splurge account is really an account where you can do anything you want. It kind of is the make yourself feel rich account.
Like getting your hair done,
right?
For wigs, getting a fresh cut.
Right. Basically, as long as there's money in that account, you can swipe the card. And basically, this is for people that have trouble budgeting. When you have that splurge account, as long as there's money in there, you can spend. When there's no more money, there's no more money. And so that was really nice to have an account that was just for splurging. And then the next account was the smile account, and that was for known expenses. So let's say you're planning a trip. A certain percentage of your income was going to that account towards the trip. Let's say you had a big purchase or expense that you wanted, a really nice gift that you've been expecting, so that was the account. So it's called the smile account because that every time there's money in there, you smile because you can do something with it. And then the last account was the fire extinguisher account. And that account was to pay off debt. So whatever percentage of money that went into that at the end of the month, you put it into your lowest debt so that would extinguish the debt. And once that debt is extinguished, you move on to the next big one.
Get the point. Extinguish all fires, which is debt. Get it out.
Now, y'all might ask, okay, what about your actual savings, right? And so we also had an account called your Mojo account. And the Mojo account is really where you have your real savings, your emergency savings. And that Mojo account, basically, if you guys have watched Austin Powers, the any movie that talks about, Mojo, is basically like, that is my I've got it account. Like no matter what, I got that.
Cruise control.
Right. And so once you finish paying off your debt, everything that used to go in the fire extinguisher account, can go to Mojo, as well as finding other sources of income that can go into the Mojo.
There's a general guidance on what amount of your income should go to each of these accounts by percentage. So for example, with daily expense, you should have about 60% of your income going into that account. Then you go up to the fire extinguisher where you're trying to extinguish your debt. You can put in about 20% of your income into that account. Now for splurge, you could put in 10% of your income, and for smile, put in 10% of your income. And that should give you a total of how you will split out your income as it comes in.
Right. And it doesn't have to be that way. We definitely did not do it that way because we were more, stringent on what our goals were. So we actually had only about 5% going to splurge. So we didn't have that much to, splurge on. And we actually increased our fire extinguisher to 30%. So our expenses were at 55%. And then we had our fire extinguisher at 30%, smile at 10%, and splurge at 5%.
Right.
And that worked for us for a little bit, but we started to have some issues with
the experience that we had that was a little concerning was relating to how do we then split out our own personal expenses? Like, where does that talk about that? Because, I may want to go, shopping for myself or just do something nice, right? And she may want to do something for herself. Where does that come out of? And we realized we might have to do a little bit of a hybrid of what we learned.
Right. So it was supposed to technically, come from the splurge. As long as there's money in the splurge, you could use it. But somebody that's on this video right now liked to have lunch with his boss. He's a he, by the way. He liked to have lunch with his boss as a networking thing. And so every day,
it's not my fault. I like to relate with people.
Right. It would go and spend $20 on lunch every day. So one person was packing lunch from home, and the other person was spending like $50 a week to $100 a week going to lunch with their boss or their co-workers. And so you can see how easily, so it had that same similar problem with the first situation we had where one person was spending more than the other. And so then it's kind of like, well, if you've already cut your hair and you've already done all these things, where do I get money to feel like, oh, I'm doing something for myself? One of the other issues with this type of account is that you're not really doing a $0 budget. And if you've read any of Dave Ramsey's books, you know, the point of having a $0 budget is the fact that you know where every single penny that you make goes to before it comes in, and you kind of direct your money. Mm-hmm. And you know, with this method, you know, money is just going to account you're spending, and as long as money's there, you spend it, which is great for some people because they have done badly with budgets in the past. But for us, we had very specific goals that we wanted to achieve, so we wanted to know where every single cent was going. So we realized that we needed to make some changes.
That's correct.
And so we decided to come up with a hybrid.
So as we've explained, there are a couple of things that wasn't working with completely using the barefoot investor approach. So we decided to do that hybrid. This hybrid actually covers a couple of changes. For example, we didn't send our money into a blow account any longer. It went straight to our daily expenses. We didn't need that extra account, so we just decided to close it. And the money coming to our daily expenses, we were now able to split that off into 2 different splurge accounts, one for me, one for her. And that would allow us to have a fair share of our income to be able to splurge on whatever we need personally. And we also did away with our fire extinguisher account because we had paid off most of our debt. And then that takes me to the Smile account. And with the Smile account, we still contribute money to that account. However, once it exceeds that percentage, if we don't use it for travel, vacation, all of that, we then transfer it to our Mojo account, which we also still have, where most of our savings goes to. So this is how this hybrid has come together, and I think it really works for us. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, it definitely does, and it fixes the issue of one person spending more than the other, because you have your money, you can spend it, you can save it, whatever you want, you can do. And it
buy
also
gifts for her too.
Right. It also gives that element of surprise that we kind of lost in the first 2 models, because you could see that it was happening because it was completely open to the both of us. Right. And then lastly, we're not able to, you know, use a $0 budget, because that's how we determine what goes into what account and here and there. So we already know before our paychecks come in how much we're supposed to save, and we can move that directly into their respective accounts.
So in summary, when you look at our approach, which is quite different from Barefoot Investor, it comes down to a couple of accounts, right? We have the daily expense account, we've got the Mojo where our total savings go to, we've got the Smile, and then we've got the Splurge, and the Splurge is split into 2. And we're enjoying it.
And just to let you know what kind of accounts these are, our daily expense account is an interest checking. So we do get interest on our checking account because most of our money goes in there initially. And then our Smile account is a high interest savings account, as well as our Mojo account. Our splurge accounts, our separate splurge accounts, are also interest checking accounts.
Right. And one other thing about the Mojo, which is different from the Smile, is that the Mojo is not easily accessible.
Right.
If you remember Kevin Hart on one of his jokes, it takes me 3 days to transfer my money, so I can't buy this yacht. It's the same thing, right? So we keep our Mojo account quite far away, while the Smile is a little bit closer because of special trips and things that we are planning ahead for. That's it on this video. Hopefully it teaches you how to manage your finance with your partner and make sure that you succeed.
And as always, thanks for watching the RLF Power Couple channel. We hope that this video helps you win in your relationships, your lifestyle, and in your finances. And we'll catch you next time.
Peace.
So that same joint account we already had, we just kept it as our blow bucket. That's where all your money comes into.
Get your money out the gutter.
Please, don't do that.
And it's not to blow. Go ahead. I'm gonna add some adjustment to it. I have to be flexible. Okay. Go ahead.